Hello, welcome to today's webinar hosted by Travefy Academy with our amazing guest, Richard D'Ambrosio from Travel Business Mastermind, who I'm going to introduce in just a minute. But I do want to take a moment to just thank you all for joining us here today. We know it is, you're really busy, crazy times. We also have, Richard and I were just talking about all the electricity that's currently out all over on the East Coast. Richard's finally just came back, so we get to join him here today, which is really great. And we know that I'm sure there's many of you on this call who have experienced the same thing in the past 24 hours. So we just want to welcome you and thank you so much again for joining us. We hope that this webinar is going to be really helpful just as you begin planning your business for 2021, because as we all know, 2021 is going to be the comeback year and travel is going to be big and thriving. And so it's important to be ready for it. So it's never too early for us to start talking about it. So that's why we're really excited for this webinar here today. But first, for anyone new to Travefy Academy webinars, I'm Stephanie Grice, and I'm the education coordinator and senior client champion here at Travefy. So really good to meet you. We also have Scott Rutz from the founding team as well, who's going to be helping with questions. So there is that question box in there, and if you get a reply, it's coming from him most likely. So he's also in there in the back end as well. But before we dive in, I do want to quickly just tell you a little bit about Travefy Academy. Again, if this is your first time joining, if this isn't, you've probably heard this multiple times, but we just always like to go over why Travefy Academy exists. And really, we're existing to provide powerful education experiences and just help fulfill our mission to power the success of travel professionals. So Travefy Academy does not focus on Travefy as a product. So you will not hear anything about Travefy software in this webinar or other webinars. Instead, Travefy Academy is really just a free resource for all travel advisors to learn and to grow your travel business. And because we get to work with amazing advisors and organizations every day, we've partnered with these experts across the travel industry to provide these free educational webinars. And these webinars are not commercial in nature to promote those organizations, nor does Travefy ever accept compensation for partnerships either. So that's to tell you a little bit about Travefy Academy, just what to expect in this webinar. A couple of things I do want to mention too is that this webinar is being recorded. So if you have to hop off, you get a client call, no worries. After this, everybody who registered is going to receive an email with the recording to this webinar. So you're going to receive that after this. So no worries if you miss it or if you have a friend who couldn't join today, you can forward it to them or they'll receive it if they did register. This webinar should also just last around 60 minutes with plenty of time for the presentation. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will have time at the end for questions as well with Richard. And to ask those questions, I might as well say as well, is in the your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a question box in there. So that's where you're going to find where to ask those questions at. But with all of that being said, now I want to introduce you to our speaker and presenter today, Richard. So Richard D'Ambrosio is a master storyteller who for more than 30 years has helped leading brands like American Express, Virgin Atlantic Airways, the Family Travel Association, and Thomas Cook Travel tell their stories to their customers, the media, and employees. So he's a professional business coach and content marketing consultant with his own firm, the Travel Business Mastermind. And Richard recently has worked with the Travel Institute, Flight Center USA, and a variety of host agencies and tour companies, helping entrepreneurs refine their brands and sharpen their sales and marketing skills. And Richard writes regularly about retail, travel agencies, social media, and marketing and business management. So you are going to know just by everything he's done, this is going to be an awesome presentation. And Richard, thank you so much again for joining us here today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. I've loved the people at Travefy for years. What a great organization, so committed to travel advisors being successful. So it's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to power my webcam off just so I'm not distracting. So it's all you, Richard. I'll let you take it away there.
Yep. So as Stephanie just said, Myrna Arroyo is my business partner, and I have started this thing called Travel Business Mastermind, Myrna is a travel advisor, has been for about 8 years now. She works in Virtuoso, but she's also got a law degree and an MBA. And the two of us started Travel Business Mastermind because we wanted to help business owners meld the skills that we're going to talk about today into solid confidence building business plans and help you guys really understand how you can take some of those soft skills of marketing and sales and turn them into a path that you can actually follow along with milestones to get to your goal, whatever that goal is. Because what we have found working with hundreds of travel advisors is everybody's goal is different. But I think if you're on this call today, your goal is to use this time right now to create that bridge to 2021. We have all taken hits. This has been just an awful year. And, we can take back control if we put ourselves in the proper mindset. And if we have sort of this compass that guides us through these rocky waters to this place that we want to be in 2021, where sales are coming back in again. So our agenda today, number one, and this is something that Myrna and I say to everybody, no matter what situation you are in, pandemic or no pandemic. In fact, our 12 class module starts off with getting you right first. And we believe that is true more so today than ever before, because it is the unique you that's going to make you stand out at this time. And it's the unique you that the travelers who you want to take care of and book, that's the person they're looking for. So we also want to do a little bit of understanding how COVID has been impacting your cash flow and your customers. We need to know these things because the market has been reshaped by COVID. So if we don't take that into an account, then we cannot start building your business plan. And we are going to wrap up with some ways of thinking about how to build your business plan. I'm not going to get too wonky with you today, but I am going to walk you through some concepts that look like a cash flow statement, that look like an income statement, because that is your goal, is to put money in your bank account. So why me? I think we've all been asking ourselves that question. Why me? Why are you doing this to me? But that's not the question on this slide. The why me is the why you. Why start with you? Why start with me? Well, because travelers are looking for the security of human support today. The OTAs, and I don't want to repeat all the stories from the pandemic, the OTAs proved themselves during the pandemic as not delivering the level of service that people like you offer. That's a fact. And now is your time to shine. But if you don't take time to polish up you so that your prospects and your clients know who you are and the brilliance of you, then all the rest of the things I'm going to teach you today don't really matter, because why is somebody going to do business with you? So here's a friend of mine. He's a travel advisor. I took his name out of his Facebook post. If you recognize his little profile picture, I'm sorry to my friend, but look at what he wrote. He has a couple that's going in September on a honeymoon, and he realized that their passports were about to expire. And of course, in this current COVID situation, we know that getting passports to people is not that easy anymore. It's not the same way of doing things. So he jumped in proactively and solved their problem before they even knew it. That's why you. Expedia isn't going to do that. Booking.com is not going to do that. But your clients and prospects aren't going to know that that's the kind of things you do if you don't tell the story of you. Frankly, it's still a crowded world out there. Not only are you competing against Expedia and some of these other engines, and I really don't think you're competing with them. Travel advisors tell me that they are. I think that most clients self-select into travel advisors because they're not going after these OTAs. But yes, there are a lot of travel advisors out there. There are different lead engines that are pushing the prospects that you want to other travel advisors. So yes, so what you need to do is compete for the hearts and minds of your prospects and clients. And finally, when you focus on you, it keeps you focused. When you know that you're in love with yourself and what you do and who you sell, you alleviate all of that sales friction that creates a barrier between someone purchasing from you or somebody else. Now, if any of you follow Simon Sinek, you'll understand what his golden circle is. So maybe this is familiar to you. But what Simon likes to say is most organizations market from the outside in. They say, I sell travel. They don't say, I love honeymoon um, trips. I love destination weddings because I am a hopeless romantic. They don't sell that way. That's selling from the inside out, as Simon Sinek says. But you've got to answer those questions about why you do what you do. And that's for you to tell us. As you move out to the circle, then you start to talk about, well, how do I do it? And how that all flows from my why. And then finally, you get to that outside thing that you book travel. That's what you do. You curate trips, whatever verbs you want to use, whatever nouns best fit your why. It's got to be from you first. So what Myrna and I typically do at Travel Business Mastermind is before you even enter into our program, we ask that you fill out a very simplistic self-interview questionnaire. And the reason why we do it is because we want you to start down the path of figuring out your why. This PDF is available to you for free. Either Stephanie or I can get it to you based on your participation in the webinar. But please, we urge you to think about your why. And this is the starting way to do that. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that's the starting process. If anybody has ever gone through psychotherapy, you know that it isn't always easy getting to the why. Why am I triggered by my ex-wife? Why do I feel this way about money? Is not always easy. And stories don't always reveal themselves quickly. In fact, sometimes they're not disclosed to us until we are ready to feel them and emotionally capture them. And sometimes you need help discovering your story. I've been interviewing people as a professional in communications, in corporations, as a media person for over 30 years. And sometimes when I finish interviewing people, they say to me, when they see the story, they look at me and they say, where did you come up with that? And I say, are you kidding me? You're the one who told me this story. I didn't make this up. This is what you said, and I just happened to write it for you. Sometimes you do need help discovering your story, and I'm going to be very unabashed about it. It's part of the reason why people tell me, Richard, I want to pay you for what you do, because they're struggling to disclose that story to themselves and to their clients. Now, once you start to understand that story, what do you do with it? And a lot of people talk about storytelling, but they don't give you the roadmap to doing that. Unfortunately, in 60 minutes, it's going to be a little tough for us to give you the whole thing step by step. In fact, in our 12-week module, I think we do this over 4 weeks. We do bits and pieces of extracting the story and then putting it first on your website. And we ask you that you audit 2 or 3 of your main platforms. And you start with your website. You look at your homepage. Does your homepage, once you figure out what your why is, what your story is, does your homepage reflect your story? Of all places, your About Us or About Me page, is it, hi, I'm James, and I book travel for people who like to get away on vacation? Because if that's your story, then you're not telling the whole you. And then the other part of your website is your testimonials. How do your customers' tales of loving you come to life? And from there, then you move out to your social. You've got to get your website in strong stead with your story first, because your social leads to your website. Your website is your it's like the supermarket space where, you know, Pillsbury puts its pancake mix. Yes, they can tell their story in the advertising, but the place that they're going to pick it up is their website. And so your website is your supermarket shelf, and you've got to have your story perfect there. And then your social can draw you in. Now, the final place where your story has to come to life, because it is your most important converting tool of communications, is email. And these other 2 platforms, your website and your social can drive people to your database so that you can email them regularly and speak to them and let your story unfold before their eyes. But all of this works together. It's all integrated. So what we ask you to do in Travel Business Mastermind over several weeks, because you can't do it all at once, is you literally take a form that we have and you start saying to yourself, of my last 25 Facebook posts, how many of those told my story? Why are we so focused on that? Go back to the why me. Because if somebody sees you on social and all they see is you selling the Maldives, why buy it from you? If I'm not regularly bonding with you, where is my inclination to whip out my credit card and pay you to book me that trip to the Maldives? So here's a great example. I just found it the other day. Look at the story that this woman, Amber, writes about Stephanie B, who actually, it's Stephanie B is the customer. Amber, I think, is the travel advisor. Look at the story that she tells through her testimonial. Thank you for your help planning our trip to Germany and Austria. That's the beginning of the story. It talks about her emotions. This woman was struggling with stress and worry. But you put together this great experience, Amber, and we just want to tell everybody about it. That's great storytelling about you. Here's another great story by a very dear friend of mine, Barbara Kahn. She's a travel advisor based out of Florida. Barbara posted in April during the craziness of the pandemic, and she used a New York Times travel story on her Facebook page to tell people about why Barbara. And if you follow the storyline, she also included more of the story as people commented. The comments on this particular piece were out of control. 35 comments about Barbara as a travel advisor, about the service delivery that she creates that's differentiating her from OTAs. Great example. And the slides for this presentation will be available to you. So you'll be able to read this later and say to yourself, do I tell my story on Facebook this way? We want you to start. So once you get that and you're starting to feel confident about how you're portraying yourself, let's just be transparent about it. COVID has changed how we all do business, how our consumers purchase from us, how you guys purchase from me as a consultant. All of us are changed for a variety of reasons. So we've got to understand the impact on our cash flow and our clients if we want to start building that bridge to 2021. Because 2021 is not going to be like being here now in 2019 and planning the bridge to 2020. It's totally two different worlds. So we have to understand those impacts. So let's make believe that we're looking at an abbreviated income statement for a travel advisor. Some assumptions are made on the right-hand side of this Excel spreadsheet. And Myrna and I like to use Excel spreadsheets because it gives us a chance to build formulas in so that you can plot stuff in and say, what if? What if I could change the mix of my travel? What if I could find higher transaction averages from my river cruise clients? What if? And if the formulas are built in and you just change some numbers, you can go have fun with this stuff. So what we did was we took our Excel workbook and we said, let's just mock it up like someone's dealing with 2020. And as you can see, this particular travel advisor used to book about $560,000 in total sales. Their commissions netted out because they use a lot of tour operators and they've got a couple of preferred relationships through their consortia that get them more than 10%, yada, yada. But notice 2019, they don't charge fees and they have no other revenue. And so their income is their total commissions. But this year, with all the cancellations, with people who didn't travel this year, their income has plummeted. They're looking at almost a third of their total income and maybe even less if cancellations continue into the fall. Yeah, that sucks. But if you know your numbers, and that's why I include at the top some ways to think about your business. Existing clients, those are the ones that are in your database, whether you're using MailChimp, whether or not you're using client base from Sabre, you've got an existing client group. And you do acquire new prospects every now and then. Maybe in this case, we estimate 10 prospects per month. And then we also have some assumptions about, do you just kind of serve everybody who comes in, or because you've got your you straight, that you really do great job attracting ideal clients, not just average clients. And the reason why we want to know these figures and we want to look at ratios like close rates is because all of that ends up with that number at the bottom of this page. And your plan, your bridge to 2021 can include you moving some of those levers. You may just move one. You may decide you've got the capacity to do three. You may find, because cruising is going to be perilous in terms of planning, you are compelled to change the mix of business that you have. Whatever your choice is based on how you think about your business and your client and what the suppliers are able to do, you can take back control, but you got to know the numbers. Otherwise, your gross income is going to suck next year too. So in better times, you could have expected this. And this is the top side of a cash flow statement. The bottom side, of course, is your expenses. It's all the things that you got to pump out in, debits from your bank account to keep your business afloat. And maybe this particular travel advisor was heavily loaded towards summer travel. That's why you see so much of their income coming in July, August, September, October. They've got a lot of holiday travel as well. And as you can see, different customers buying different things, travel different times of the year. My Mexico customers don't like to travel in the summer because it's too hot. They'd rather be in the winter to get away, or the springtime. Guess what? You're looking at some more levers. If you can figure out different times of the year that people are interested in traveling, that's another opportunity. And look what I highlighted in yellow. What we saw in 2019 for this client and in 2020, they don't charge fees. So, unfortunately, this is what happened this year. The wrong curve got flattened. So there you are, total TSA processing way back in March when the world looked different. It bottomed out. It's actually starting to get a little bit better, but you see that middle gray line is this whole concept of new COVID cases. And you have to follow this trend line because this trend line shows you that COVID drives consumer demand. And if we don't flatten that curve, the curve at the bottom is going to struggle. Guess what? Over time, the longer this goes, the more we see a change in people's habits. This research is from the Harris Group. The Harris Group has been doing waves of research, asking the same questions over time to anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 American adults. And what we found is back in March, 62% of American adults said that once the virus is flattened, they would feel comfortable traveling within 6 months. In the most recent poll, which was over the July 4th weekend, that percentage dropped to 47%. Not such great news. Not such great news for your cash flow statement, because now that may mean you are going to have to heavily book high-end resorts within 3 to 5 hours drive time of some of your best paying clients who still want to get away, but don't want to take a flight. That's the ramifications of COVID on your bank account, on your business plan. Well, little bit better news on cruise, right? We all have the images of Princess Cruises and what happened to them. Still I see today on Facebook pages, so many people talking about cruise ships as petri dishes. And the funny thing is, the percentage of people who feel that they would be comfortable taking a cruise really hasn't dropped that much. We're not sure what's the underlying reason for this, but if you are going to go out because the cruise lines are going to sail next winter, next spring, and you can book them because the CDC and the cruise line industry come along with a plan and they test it out this fall, winter, and it actually works and people start feeling safe, guess what? You still have a very strong prospect pool to sell cruises to. So that doesn't necessarily change your business plan. So let's take that information now and let's start building that bridge to 2021. So like I said, you have a lot more control over your future than you realize. This may suck what we're looking at right now. However, we know that amongst your existing clients, those are warm sales leads. If they have purchased from you in the last 12 months, they're warm. If they've purchased from you twice in the last year or 2 years, they're better than warm. That's somebody that respects you for what you do. They trust you for the choices you help them make and how you take care of them. That's a lever you can impact. When it comes to new prospects, if you're doing your marketing right and attracting people that look like those loyal customers in your existing client pool, if you can go and find more people that look like that, that's something that you can have an impact on. And now, if you really double down on those ideal clients and you actually increase the size percentage of them in your pool of prospects for 2021, you can start to move a measurable amount of sales forward. So now the thing is you've got to ask yourself, are your sales skills sufficient? If your close rates are down around 10%, 15%, that may be an indication that even though you get these prospects in and they make an inquiry about buying travel from you, but for some reason they go somewhere else to buy it or they don't buy, that says something about your sales skills. I am not a sales skills expert. It's not my field, my forte. But you may want to go take some sales training to up that, because if you upgrade those percentages, then everything below it will start to fill out and that number will grow. You need to ask yourself, is your mix of what you sell optimal for the kind of money you want to make? Do you perhaps need to shift Caribbean and Mexico land? Do you need to increase, American river cruises, depending upon the capacity that's out there for you to sell into? You definitely are probably going to have to increase the amount of US land that you sell. It's just the nature of the beast today. If the travel restrictions on the United States, traveling elsewhere stay, then your optimal opportunity is going to be the United States. Mexico's still open to Americans, and it can still be a big part of your percentage. Maybe you tweak that. And then finally, like we said, if your fee and other income is zero, you're probably not thinking in a creative way, because A, those clients purchased from you for a reason in the past. They have heard the horror stories from their friends who got stranded by the OTAs. That is a value message that's been delivered to the consumer. And now you need to stand up and charge for it. So what if instead you planned for this for 2021? What if you planned for, like I said, moving your ideal client mix all the way up to 20%? And you double your close rate on your ideal clients. You figure out what the marketing message and what the sales skills are required to get that close rate up. Maybe your average client close rate is not so easy because your average client is kind of bumping around. They're not wholly sold on you yet. They look at so many other options, do a lot of their own research. So maybe you still get that up by 50%. That is all impacting the bottom line down there. Look at another lever that I changed on this slide, travel insurance. It's never been more important for people to purchase travel insurance, even with the suppliers offering insurance on their side for interruptions and cancellations. There are still issues out there that could cause someone to need insurance that the suppliers aren't going to provide. That's commission revenue for you. And then as you can see, I've built in that you finally started charging fees. So now your cash flow statement on the cash side starts to look like this. The fees are being charged in advance of the travel period. You're also maybe develop some other business income. Who knows? Maybe you are doing some affiliate selling with people who sell face shields or some product that helps people feel comfortable. Maybe you're an affiliate for someone who sells hand sanitizer bags that you can charge your clients for. You could start to build in other revenue sources as part of your bridge to 2021. Now, if you know that your sales dollar goals, if you know what they look like and you can start forecasting, you now have the beginnings of a plan. But the thing is that if you're going to do this, you need to look at how many prospects are required to get you there, because you are going to have to increase the number of people potentially interested in traveling and traveling with you, because we heard from the Airlines Reporting Corp that demand may be suppressed as much as 80%. So as you reverse engineer back to what you're going to try to create, keep that in mind. It may be harder for you with all of your marketing to produce the hot sales lead that finally purchase. So let's say we are going to focus on some clients who are willing to fly, but they want to stay in the United States. Well, guess what? There are places that luxury travel clients will still get on a plane and fly to that might offer you a very nice commission. This is the lodge at Blue Sky. It opened last fall. A couple of my friends have already visited it on fam trips, and look at what a 6-night stay can generate in total booking volume. One stay. I don't know what the lodge at Blue Sky's commission rates are. I know they're part of the Virtuoso Consortia, so I'm guessing there are some pretty good opportunities to sell there and earn a decent commission. But you may have to migrate if your why, your story, lends itself to a higher purchasing client. You may be able to do that. Here's another example. The Waldorf Astoria Park City, also in Utah. This is a Hilton property. This is what some of their rates look like per day in Expedia. Now, working with Hilton, I know that they may be down to 7%. So the commission rate on this may not be as optimal. Not sure what special deals they might be offering to incent travel advisors to help them fill their rooms. But again, are you auditing the types of the clients that you want, understanding what the commission rates look like for those products? Because once you start to understand those numbers, now you're starting to build that business plan to 2021. Because now you know, I want to market high-end mountain resorts that give that sense of space that the COVID traveler is looking for. It gives that sense of maybe exclusivity, that I won't be dealing with crowds, that have outdoor activities for me to enjoy myself. And you know what? As a wealthy person, I wasn't hurt that bad by COVID. I've done well for myself, and I want to reward the stress that I've undergone with a great vacation for me and my family. So now you might be asking yourself, yeah, Rich, but how do I build out the rest of the business plan? Well, here's one way you can do it. If you have a Facebook business page, and I strongly urge that you do. I'm not a big fan of Mr. Zuckerberg, and I'll tell you, the way he's moved his model, because he's a publicly traded company, I totally get it. But as a result, you're going to have to put some marketing dollars down on the bottom half of that cash flow statement. Now, for free, you can go into your Facebook Ads Manager, and you can start to take a look at what Facebook thinks is the size of a market for you to market those Utah lodges, those high-end lodges. So what I did here is I looked at only the Washington, D.C. area. I made believe that I was a travel advisor based in the DC area that gives people a little bit more comfort that I actually exist, because they can check out my address, where's my business. They might even find some of their friends on my testimonials. And I said, okay, let's take Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, DC. And let's look only for people ages 44 to 65. They are frequent international travelers, which means they don't mind spending money. They enjoy, getting far away. They probably have lots of experience dealing with cultures and places that aren't completely comfortable. You know what? Let's make believe we only want people with professional degrees, because hopefully that gives us some indication that they've insulated themselves from the economic hassles that everybody's having right now. And now we start drilling down into some interests. First class travel, high net worth, luxury resorts. I even threw in Park City mountain resorts, so that these are people who, in some way, Facebook says might be optimal for a trip to those 2 lodges that we just showed you. And look at what it tells us. It thinks that approximately 2.6 1,000 people could be reached on a daily basis with an ad based on these parameters. And that if you have a landing page that you send them to about the kind of travel you want to book, this mountain resort, high-end luxury type of experience, that you may convert anywhere between 17 and 48 of those people. Guess what? On our ideal client list, we were looking for 45 prospects to close 6 to get to that number. You can do this. There are ways for you to find these prospects, start pushing them into your sales funnel, but you are going to have to work harder. I am not telling you this is easy. If anybody wants to tell you the 5 easy steps to getting back to your 2019 commissions and income, they're blowing smoke at you. This is not going to be easy, but it's not going to be all that hard either. It's going to take work, and it's going to take you making a commitment to understanding the processes and the way that the consumer's mindset has been shaped and how they're now looking for travel experiences to deal with their current experience. It's going to take you thinking like them to move them through that sales cycle so that they pull out their credit card and say, thank you so much. I'm so glad I found you. So to wrap this up and start getting onto the questions, know your numbers. We tell you you've got to know at least how many people do I book every year. It would be great if you know what they purchased. And I know that a lot of you have to deal with different tools to book travel. So pulling all that data into one place can sometimes be very frustrating. It's worth the effort because that's telling you a story. Know what those commissions look like on those transactions, because that's where we start to get to, oh, wait a second, 20% of my bookings drive 60% of my commissions because those bookings are higher end commissions. If you don't know those ratios, it's going to be harder for you now to focus in on what's my marketing plan to pull that 20% that gets me 60% to maybe 30% that's getting me 90%. If you don't know those numbers, it's so hard for you to do this. So please, you're going to have to spend your time getting to know that. Know how many times you deal with a client. They either click on your consulting form, my complimentary consulting session with you, or they send you an email and say, could you please research the following 3 resort areas in Mexico? How many prospects come into your funnel and how many of those do you close? You need to know that because that's going to relate to how people are coming in, what they're seeking, and how good you are at selling to them. Then we want you to start to, once you know that, start to research the best suppliers and destinations that are open to do business with. Like I said, you know, the lodge, the 2 lodges that we just showed you in Utah, do you ever deal with them? Do you know the director of sales there? Do you know anything about those properties? What do their social assets look like that you might be able to use in a marketing campaign or a social media campaign? Do you know how much they match with your ideal client? And ultimately, what is their commission rate? You've got to know that because you don't want to waste your time working on something that's going to drive suboptimal pay. Guys, most of the clients that Myrna and I work with do not like Excel spreadsheets. We try to take our Excel spreadsheets and build in as many formulas as possible so there's less work for you to do. And on many of the pages, we ask you a question, and in the cell, you just fill in the number. And then on the next page, it starts to tell you the story of all of your numbers without you having to go fill in each page. But you're going to have to start getting comfortable with that because your first inclination about how you want to build that bridge to 2021 may not be your best choice. And so if everything's built in and the numbers are there, and then all you need to do is play with the levers and change the percentages. So now you're doing these what if scenarios. What if I could do 60% of my business US land, or 50%, or 40% Mexico and 20% Caribbean, because these 5 islands are open and I know those islands and there's a couple of great resorts that are doing a fantastic job with COVID. And I want to try to build my plan around that. If you're comfortable in Excel, you can start to do that and start to project your income. And when you do this process, in your mind, you start taking back control of your business. It doesn't feel like you're at the whim of the world, because if the world changes and Mexico closes down, if you've successfully started upselling high-end US resorts and you've solidified relationships there, guess what? You can pivot. You can feel more comfortable that there's a way to backfill that lost income because the world changed, but you changed with it. And then finally, it does give you a chance to refine your cash flow and your income statements. And when you see the numbers come to life off the page, that's another confidence builder for you. So I threw a lot at you. Each one of these slides could have easily have been 45 minutes each, because there are steps on each of those pages. And it's not always easy to get it right the first time. In fact, I'm actually reading a book right now about how to be a better salesperson. And the author even says to you, when you start the section on improving your skills, he says to you very specifically, I want you to read through this, and I want you to come back to the first page of the section and then read through it again, because over time, this is going to fill in your brain and it's going to become natural to you. The same thing happens when you work on something like Excel spreadsheets. If you're not comfortable with them, over time, you start to figure it out. I am teaching myself Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a video editing skill, a tool, piece of software, and I'm using it to help my clients start to launch video ad campaigns. 4 months ago, when I first started diving in, I was awful. I'm much better today because I'm in there every night and my brain is starting to go, Rich, go over here. That's where you find that. Rich, don't make the mistake of clicking here before you click there, because otherwise you're editing the wrong part of that video. Everything you do, you can get better at, but you've got to do it. You've got to overcome the fear. And I'm focusing on Excel because I've heard it. 75% of the travel advisors I've worked with have said to me, I just don't like Excel. I don't like workbooks. I get it. But if you work in them long enough, you may not like working in them, but you'll be comfortable working with them. And now you can take control of your business. So go back to my very first few slides. You need to be who you are and be it perfectly well. One of my favorite heroes in the world, in history, St. Francis of Assisi. He was he's a Catholic saint. I'm Catholic, baptized and confirmed. And Assisi was a soldier and I hate to say it, a Lothario. He was a roustabout. He was a person who was not very saintly at the beginning of his life. And he went through a series of problems in his life, severe setbacks that made him think about himself and who he was. And through that crucible that he had to be put through, he started to realize that he could have a greater impact on his friends and his community, and ultimately the way he worked within his faith, by being himself as perfectly as he could be. All of what I just told you starts with you getting you right first, stepping out into that brilliance, being unafraid of being that person as boldly as you can be. The way I'm talking right now, I did not talk this way 3 or 4 years ago. I had to step out through a crucible that I went through to be the person who's talking to you now. And while I am not as perfect as I want to be at this point, I'm a lot better at what I do because I started to believe in me. So I'm going to leave you with one special offer. Myrna and I created this at Travel Business Mastermind. It's actually one of the more fun tools that we created because it's not about Microsoft Excel, though the story in this workbook comes from analyzing data in Microsoft Excel. What I did was I analyzed over about 35, 40 days, the posts from one of my favorite adult all-inclusive resorts, Live Aqua down in Cancun. I loved staying there. It's a great resort. Can't wait until it's completely, fully reopened with all its restaurants and everything's back to normal. But I analyzed their social feed. And what we saw is something I will tell you always works for pretty much every travel marketer, whether it's a travel advisor, a tour company, a cruise line, an all-inclusive resort. We found some trends in LiveAqua's data, and we put it together in a special ebook. You can find it here at this specific URL link. We do ask that you let us know that you were there by leaving your contact info, because we do want to hear what you think about this. And we want to see after the fact that if you change your social to follow some of these ideas, whether or not your engagement improved. And the reason why your engagement needs to improve is not because of the vanity metrics. It's because that means people are falling in love with you. And the more people engage with you at your Facebook page, the better your paid marketing and your organic marketing will be, because the algorithms that Facebook has about who to show content to is dependent upon how people engage with you. So you want to get this right first. This is part of that first section of my presentation. Step out brilliantly into you, start telling your amazing story in much more powerful story images and text, and watch your business come to life. So with that, we'll go to the Q&A, Stephanie and Scott. Here's where you can find Myrna and myself. You can give me a call. That is my personal cell phone, my professional cell phone. I pick up that line all the time, except when I'm doing webinars like this. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. Yeah, there's so many questions, compliments coming in. It's been a really helpful webinar. So thank you, first of all. It's so helpful seeing, the real life examples, because all the time, we get this high level overview of here's what you should do, and it's not really broken down of here's what these numbers are looking like, here's what they could look like, things like that. So that's just incredible. And I do want to mention too, because we had a lot of questions about this, is the downloads. So the slides that you've seen here today will be available to you. So, and then also the why worksheet as well. So Richard's provided that to us already. So what I did is the email that you're going to receive after this, you'll get a link to that. And then there's also a link to the article at academy.travefy.com that's going to have the recording uploaded and have all this as well. So reach out to us, our support team, and we can get that to you, but it'll be all available to you, which is really exciting. But I want to jump into questions here, because I know we don't have a ton of time, so I know we have so many.
Sure.
But the first one, and this one kind of came a little bit towards the beginning of with the spreadsheet, and you're right, the spreadsheet, it caused a lot of questions, and totally get it. It does start to, it's new for so many people. So Matthew said, my clients are yet ready to start pushing product, despite the fact that suppliers are trying to convince us it's time to start selling again.
Right.
How do we use COVID statistics to adjust our marketing message? And what do we need to look for in the data to start talking about a product again?
Right. So the first thing I will tell you is, if you've got a really good pulse on your client's desire to travel, don't push back on them, because they are going to feel like you're being inauthentic and selfish about the money you want to make. But that doesn't mean that the content you create now can't start creating within Facebook an understanding of, these are the individuals, both my followers, but anybody who gets introduced, maybe if I do some paid advertising, to get introduced to me, that I can market to later. So let's say we think about the cash flow statement. If we're here now at August, and you're thinking, if we don't have great news about a vaccine by October, that the European Union, for example, finally starts letting Americans in because we flattened our curve, and that starts to reshape the mind of those travelers, that they're starting to go, you know what, I'm not as concerned. Then what you're doing right now is you're putting that brilliant you out there, which is an authentic human being who cares about their customers, who bailed their customers out of jams. And what you're doing is as they're engaging with you, commenting, loving your Facebook page, now all of a sudden, if you do want to do an ad in November that says, you're looking at your cash flow statement and saying, I can do with not starting to collect income from commissions until May, June, July. I'm in a great position. I've got savings. I've got another profession that gets me income. Then what you do is maybe you do a couple of paid ads in November, targeted at getting people into a sales funnel over the next 30, 45 days, so that they're going on a trip in the springtime when the world is a lot more sane. And so that's what you can do. You're right. If suppliers are being too heavy-handed, you know what? Some clients are ready to do that. But if you think the majority of your clients aren't, then you want to use this time to build your email list so that you can start to target them as you start to hear their narrative change, as you see more comments on your Facebook post that, you know what, I might be interested now, or you send out an email with a couple of quick questions on a survey through SurveyMonkey, and it comes back and you're surprised, oh my goodness, people's worry is decreasing. Then you start to increase the velocity of your marketing campaigns earlier than you thought. And that's how you adjust that 2021 bridge.
Yeah, that's a really great point about using your social media to kind of gauge that and using your own hearing, seeing what they're hearing. And yeah, no, that's really great.
Guys,
Um,
when you go in and create a Facebook ad, you literally can tell Facebook, show this particular ad only to people who did this at my website, who did this on my Facebook page. Do a video. Right now, I'm doing 3 videos with 3 travel advisors on wine culinary travel to Europe, South Africa, and New Zealand. And they're doing this to acquire the email information. They may not market to them right now because you can't travel to New Zealand right now, but they're now starting to get warm sales leads into their sales funnel, and they can start to work that sales lead over time.
yeah, that's really great. And what you mentioned earlier about, like, we all are saying this now, but this just goes to show how important travel agents are and to use them. And so it's a great time to be like, if you're going to travel next year, which like pretty much everybody does at this point, you should use a travel agent. And here's why. So yeah, that's really important.
Get those testimonials up. If you saved people back in March and April, get those testimonials up as soon as possible if you haven't already.
Awesome. Yeah, that's another good idea for that. So this question here is from Jennifer, and she said, would it be better to look at 2019 numbers rather than 2020 in order to get a good understanding of where we'd be starting to forecast in 2021?
Yes. In fact, Myrna and I optimally like to work with travel advisors who are at least in the business 2 to 3 years, because you want at least 2 years of data, because that's more normalized towards what you are, unless there was an anomaly that your first year of your first 2 years was your first year, and therefore it was a weird year. But if you have been in the business 5 years, I would even say go back 2018 and 2019 to kind of understand your averages. Yep.
Awesome. Perfect. And on that, a question also from Jennifer is, if you participate in your program, do you assist with Excel spreadsheets?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. As you mentioned, that was like one of the top things that a lot of people
Guys,
have a lot of
I
questions.
learned to love Excel because I worked at American Express for 15 years and you couldn't survive there without it. The first few times I used it, I hated it. Hated it.
Oh, yeah. I know it stinks. I totally get that. I'm trying to learn it too right now but it's the most helpful thing you can possibly do, as you can see, as you broke down everything here today, why it's so important.
Yeah.
So fully understand. So this question is a kind of a fun one here. I really like this one. Melanie asked, what sales books are you reading right now? Or what are some of your favorite sales books?
So I am not a great salesperson. I have, so right now I'm reading Ask by Ryan Levesque. And I'm reading it because my partner Myrna read it and loved it. I read mostly content marketing books, but I would definitely tell you Ryan has got a great concept. It's not about sales skills specifically. And I've read a lot of sales skills books because I used to run a sales and client management team at American Express. And it's really hard for me to offer one up in this current environment because so much of what we do today is digital. And a lot of the books I used to read, it was about going into somebody's office. It was about face-to-face at expos and whatever. So trying to think of who are some of the great salespeople out there. You know, Simon Sinek is not necessarily a salesperson, but when you read his books, you start to understand the sales mindset and what makes selling less pushing at somebody, but drawing them to you. So I would definitely read some of Simon Sinek's books. You can find them on Amazon very easily.
Awesome. Great. And so I know this question could be its own webinar. We could be here for a while, but for the short answer, so Terry asked, how do you recommend I come up with what I should charge for a service fee?
Yes. You know, it's a question that has many answers. Um, I was at a signature travel network conference, and it was the only time I've seen people raise their hands in a room when asked, how much do you charge? The average in that room that day was $175, but Signature Travel Network is not necessarily the IC model. They're typically owners of agencies. So I think that might have been a little bit higher. But notice the fee that TripAdvisor is charging for its new Rico product, where you go to TripAdvisor, you start inquiring, and then TripAdvisor says, would you like a travel advisor to book with? It's $199. If TripAdvisor is coming out at around $199, to me, what they're saying to the world is, we did some research on this and we think that's a pretty good price point. I would try to start around $199.
Awesome. That's good to know. Yeah. Yeah, they did all the work, so you might as well
They
take that.
must have did
Must
it
be
for a
something
reason.
to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So another question here is, what is an effective, easy way to track close rates?
Yes. Very simple. Every time somebody comes in to your sales funnel because they filled out your consultation form, it should trigger something in your email client. Myrna and I use HubSpot. Somebody comes in, clicks one of our buttons, wants a free consultation, it goes in. We can now pull a report of everybody who came in through HubSpot. If somebody emails us outside of HubSpot, they email me like my email here, we put that into HubSpot. Try to use a tool that captures the first inquiry, whether it's email, phone call, your consultation form. And then, depending upon the different tools you book through, that's your actual sales by number. And now it's just a simple division. You know, you divide the number of inquiries into the number of sales, and that's your close rate.
Easy as that. That's
Easy as that.
perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Since we are coming on time here, I do have one last question, but I just have to comment that there's so many people saying how inspiring this is and that they needed to hear this today. So
I'm
perfect
glad we
timing.
all need it. Just to let you
I know.
know, Stephanie and I were not sure about today because my electricity got knocked out by Isaias yesterday, and it only came on 2 hours ago. I needed the inspiration of doing this today.
I know it was all meant to be. It was so meant to be. Yeah, I know. I can't believe how lucky we got. So lucky about that. But the one last question that I have here is, can you share that link again? I think it's on the previous slide to the special offer. Someone mentioned that.
The
There it is.
PDF,
Perfect.
the link should be active in the PDF. So I'm pretty sure you'll just be able to click on it in the PDF.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
So once again, everyone, too, that you'll have access to all of this after. So just give us a little bit of time to get it all in there. But after you'll get that email and it'll have everything in there. If you don't see it though, definitely let us know and we can help you out. But man, I just want to say once again, this has been super helpful. It's even inspiring just for me. I'm ready to take on the rest of the day now. After this, I'm so excited. And I just want to thank you so much again for taking your time to share all of this knowledge with us. And again, reach out to Richard if there's any lingering questions. But thank you so much again, Richard. We really appreciate it.
It has been so much fun. You guys are the greatest. This is one of the best products out there. And I love working with Travelify because they use data to improve how you interact with your clients through this tool. These are the kinds of people that make my heart fill with joy because they make it easier on you guys.
Oh, well,
And they
thank
didn't pay
you.
me to do that either.
No, we didn't pay him for that. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it is, that's what, when you're going through the spreadsheets, I was like, this is all like we see this all the time because we're always
You
diving in
have
those
to.
numbers. It's very important. Yeah, but thank you so much again. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks everyone. And hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. And we'll, and let us know if there's anything that we can help with in the meantime. So thanks so much again.
Yep. Thanks, Stephanie. You've been great.
Thanks, you too. We'll see you
Okay.
later.
Bye.
Bye.